everybody. Bob Adams. It is the 10th of May. Welcome to this evening's presentation. This is one that Tony and I like to do. We call it a general webinar, general presentation. This one, I'm going to tell you ahead of time, is one that is going to have a lot of material in it. You know, we're kind of getting to the stage where a lot of you have heard my presentations repeatedly, and tonight it's going to be kind of the culmination. This is the point where you need to take a real serious look at what it is that you're doing with your IQD investment. What do you want to accomplish? I've got days preparing this silly thing. I'm looking forward to doing the presentation tonight. Once again, thank you very much for being here tonight, and we will get this thing going even as we speak. First of all, this is going to be called your IQD Financial Design. There's going to be certain portions of it we're going to learn, we're going to plan, we're going to implement, we're going to secure, and then we're going to look beyond the now. As usual, we have our disclaimer. All information, discussions regarding the Iraqi dinar, events, taxes, and plans are for educational and entertainment purposes only, are general in nature, and not intended as investment, legal, or tax advice. Each person's personal financial situation is unique and different, and the information provided may not apply or work effectively for you. In addition, any information or discussion regarding the Iraqi dinar, if or when the Iraqi dinar may revalue, or what such revaluation, if any, may look like or represent, is not intended to be investment advice and may not be relied upon by you for any purpose whatsoever. In all events, you should discuss any investment you make, including any investment in Iraqi dinar, with independent licensed professionals of your choosing other than us. By signing up for and attending or participating in our informational internet or in-person workshops, seminars, and follow-up meetings, you agree that Bob Adams, David Stephenson, and Tony Elder personally and Max Plans for Life, Inc., and all affiliate companies, representative associates, or employees, information providers, are hereby held harmless from all liability and loss associated with information and discussion provided, and as to any action or strategy you may choose to implement with regard to the same. All righty, folks. I'm kind of taking this design this evening just to be a little bit different in how we do things. But you're going to see there we've got the pre-RV, we've got the post-RV, and then we've got 3 sections and then 2 sections. So this evening we're going to start right off with the learning section. So just some real quick reminders. Most of you already know this information, but I just want to put it back on the table to say, hey, remember. Number 1, the IQD is considered an exotic currency without access to the Forex market. Why is that important? Because it's going to be subject to ordinary income and not capital gains. If this was being regularly transacted on the Forex market, they have all kinds of blessings on that particular one, so that we could actually do exchanges that would be microseconds and then be termed long-term investments. But we're not there. We're not there. So at this point in time, the IRS considers this thing to be a not capital asset, but an ordinary income. And obviously, we don't know the date and the rate. No matter how many times people ask me or Tony or what our considerations are, obviously, we do not know that particular answer, and we're not going to have that answer, you know, during this time frame. It just simply isn't in our ballpark to be able to give that. Now, this makes planning in some ways easier and harder at the same time. Now, the easy part, there's things that we can do to reduce, like using the gifting assignments to reduce our estate taxes, defer, using that CRUT to defer taxes and to reduce estate taxes, and we can eliminate, using the Roth to protect our gains, gives us completely tax-free gains coming off of it. Now, here's the hard part. Determining a plan that fits our income and age and desires. This is one of the benefits I have of talking with everybody, because there are such a wide variety of different people who are involved in this particular investment, and so I get to see in a sundry of what ideas they come up with or what ideas we can collectively come up with based upon these particular criteria. Completing the plans will be valuable if you get it done before this thing happens. Now, I'm going to throw a thought on the table for you. Have you ever thought about what it's going to be like? I mean, the transition going from some kind of an exotic currency that's been, condemned throughout most of the professional world to suddenly having some kind of value, it's going to be chaos. At the peak, it's going to be nightmarish for a lot of people. So getting things done prior to that time is going to be very, very important. And deciding what to do after for your personal financial well-being is going to be satisfied. So we're going to take time now, and we're going to do a little exercise. And it is going to take a little bit of time, so just bear with me. And look at some of the important thoughts you have regarding your personal plans for the IQD, which obviously could include a house, a car, retirement, and travel. Those would be some of the things that, in fact, most people share with me that's what they're really after. So all I'm going to do now is, take a look at how long have you been in this investment. I know that for me, it's been a long time, really long time. And most of us got into this thing under the auspicious idea that it was going to be imminent. It's going to just change in value this next week, okay? Many of us learned about this IQD at church. I'm surprised at the percentage of people who got that lead from church. And then those on the call this evening generally believe it's going to come to fruition, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So this is why we, and I'm including myself, as a group, we gathered to learn more and to get prepared. Now, while that's fine and dandy, let's just get serious for a minute and honestly take a look at what it is we want from this crazy adventure called the IQD investment. So what I want you to do, I want you to find a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and a notebook or a chalkboard, whiteboard, something that you can write on. So let's just take a couple of minutes. I'm going to just put myself on mute for just about a minute and allow you to find something. Just something you can write on and write with.
Can anybody hear me out there? Star 6. I'm the only one where Bob's audio went out.
Nope, I got you. You're fine. We're just on hold while people are looking up some paper.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Leave it to Tony. Okay, 1 minute. Well, it seemed like forever, didn't it? All right, so either you have something to write on, or perhaps you decided, well, maybe I don't want to. That's entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you. But I'm going to throw some questions up here in a few minutes, and by having them written down, it's going to give you the opportunity to kind of think about them a little deeper. It's so easy for us to have these conversations and take a look at it as entertainment, or take a look at it as, I'm getting my fix on my IQD investment. And that's not what we're doing tonight. Tonight is a time for us to get serious about our IQD investment, which is why I got to tell you, I have spent days preparing this particular presentation. It's not like any of the others, because I have a pertinent message I want you to get. And in order to do that, I'm going to have you delve deeper than what we've done in the past. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to write down the answers to the following questions. I will give you a short period of time, 15 seconds or so, to write an answer down. Now, I don't expect you to write the question, just write the answer. You're going to get a copy of this thing later on. So my first question is, when did you purchase your first IQD? How much do you have? Now, I want you to include in this in the Roth, but not what you've got in WORCA. So what you have on hand and what you potentially have in a Roth. Now, for those of you who don't know what WORCA is, it's a bank over in Iraq that at one time would allow U.S. citizens to open an account there, which now it does not. So don't worry about it if you don't know anything about it. How much do you have in your Roth? I want you to separate that from what you have on hand. Now remember, these can just be rough estimates. And then for those of you who did get into the WORCA, how much do you have there? Now, I realize you haven't heard from them in a while, and you're going to have to make it just a guesstimate. Just give it a best guesstimate as to what the current value of your IQD at WORCA may be. All right, next question is, and this is true from everybody, how many people, including your children, other family members, or strangers, do you want to share your IQD with? And Tony, if you need to take your shoes off and count your toes also, that'd be fine. So what are your personal needs to make yourself feel like you're financially secure for the rest of your life? Now, here's some topics. How much do you think you need to pay off your debts? Ballpark figure. Include the house. And if you don't have the house there, how much would it cost you to secure a home? Just think about what kind of home do you want there. Throw a number at it. Purchase a vehicle or pay off the vehicles that you currently may have. And to secure income for the rest of your life. Now, this is pretty easy because what I want you to do is I want you to think about this as if, since we don't have a number, how much money do you feel like you would need to have each year that would keep you in a comfortable position? Now, I know some of you are older and retired, and you're comfortable at whatever rate you may currently have. Some of you are younger, and you really don't know yet. Some of you have children, you really don't know yet. That's fine. Just how much money do you think you would need to be comfortable for the rest of your life? Then the next question is, knowing how much RV or how much IQD you've got on your hand, what would the rate have to be in order to accomplish those things you have there? So let's just say you have 2 million IQD. Let's say the rate you need would be $1, which would give you $1 million. And that would satisfy everything that's there, which honestly it won't, but it's a number to play with. The next question has to do with taxes, all right? Because quite frankly, this is the monster. This is the thing that hides in the corner, in the closet, waiting. It's as inevitable as sunrise. There's no way around it. Okay, so are you concerned about it, yes or no? Now, interestingly, some people don't care. They only look at this thing short-sightedly to say, oh man, that could be $1 million, I'm going to go blow it. Okay, well, some people, that's the way they look at life. And I'm not condemning. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just simply saying that's how some people see things. And that's fine. If that's what they do, they do. What steps have you taken so far to reduce, defer, or eliminate those anticipated taxes? I'm going to throw some suggestions on here and just see if any of them fit. Okay? And also, what steps do you think you need to do? So, have you looked at doing gifting assignments, or have you done gifting assignments in order to reduce that estate tax? And we're going to get into the ugliness of the estate tax here shortly. How many of you have a Roth that currently has anything in it and or has IQD in it? How many of you have either started or completed your Charitable Remainder UniTrust? Okay, now, I didn't give you that test to shame you. That's not its purpose. Okay, the whole idea is I want you to take a look at and figure, what do you need in order to have peace of mind? Now, I'm going to go into quite a bit on retiring. What does that look like? all right? Because that's what this really boils down to. It doesn't matter what your age is. When this thing comes to fruition, you're going to retire. Well, are you ready to retire? Do you understand the steps in retirement? Do you understand some of the things that happen in retirement? We're going to talk about that. Okay, so let me ask you something. What have you discovered in there just for you? Because that's all it was for, is made for you. It's not made for me. And to show you what you don't know about what you don't know. Now, that's really an odd statement, but it's the truth. Some people don't have a freaking clue about how taxes work. They don't understand how it's going to apply to our IQD investment. It's a total different domain. Now, the majority of you that are on this call, you've heard my voice. You know what I'm going to say for the most part. And you know I'm going to espouse over and over and over, these are the things that need to get done. So you have an idea. But sometimes there's just, you don't know what you don't know. Now, do you need to feel guilty about what the tax you don't know? No, you don't. No, this is normal. This is what life is all about. So for those who've been following Tony and I, you've heard me sing the same old song over and over. Taxes are the biggest hole in your financial ship. I say it. Tony says it. Anywhere in the world, if you check into the investment world, you're going to hear that same thing. It is the biggest hole in your financial ship. It's the thing that ruins more than anything else. You need to get ready because it's coming. Okay, it's coming. Just as sure as the sunrise, it's coming. And then I always use this line, and I do it kind of funnily. It's just kind of, oh, that's cute, Bob. Friday at 3 o'clock. I say that with all intentions. If it was coming this Friday at 3 o'clock, am I ready? Am I ready? Do I have what I need? So while this particular investment seems to go on forever, it's actually getting closer each and every freaking day. So I've decided I'm going to dedicate this webinar to the latter part of our investing, which has to do with future generations. Now, some people will say, why should I even care about future generations? And some people don't. They don't care. I'll tell you why as we go through the presentation, why this is so important for you to look at it. Because it's going to feel this great big gap that's going to show up in your world when this thing comes to fruition. So just be aware. This is the direction we're headed. So this is really a great question. So once you're gone, who gives a dang? Why would you care? So you may have shared your IQD with loved ones, got those gifting assignments all done, and now they're all on their own. Well, good for you. Good job, okay? And you may have shared part of your IQD with charities and churches. Well, God bless you, and enjoy the tax break. And you may have considered using a Charitable Remainder UniTrust to provide a lifetime income for you and your spouse. Well, that's thinking. That's good thinking. That's really going to be of value. But after all the hoopla of the IQD revaluation, and it will be, the acquisition of all your desired financial security and the parties and the traveling, now what? Now what? So most retired people, and one more time, I'm saying this to you because it doesn't matter what your age is. When this comes to fruition, you are staring retirement in the face, okay? Have lost themselves in accomplishing their financial goals, and they need more to sustain their sanity. So let's take a look at that for a minute. There are 5 stages of retirement everyone's going to go through. Everyone. The eventuality is you get old. You get old. And you're going to be facing a period of time when, A, you're not going to be an actively participation in the world of employment. Okay? You're just simply not. You're not physically going to be able to, and also you're not going to want to. You're not going to want to. So we're going to take a look at these 5 stages, and you're going to see, hopefully, why I'm telling you it's so important to look beyond the now. First stage, that pre-retirement. This is the stage where you actually retire. It involves all the imagining of your new life and planning for it, which is all the things that we've been talking about. This stage, before you actually retire, involves imagining your new life and planning for it. Along with your finances, you need to consider what will make you happy and fulfilled while you transition. While you transition. By doing so, you can have a much smoother experience. Now, the second stage is the actual full retirement. Now, the liberation or the honeymoon phase of retirement occurs at the official beginning and can last from about 1 to 2 years after the retirement stage. How many of you watch I've seen them all the time. I'm going to retire. I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to drink beer. They sit out there in the lake in their boat with the water and drinking beer, and that's it. and then next year they die. Now, the liberation phase, it includes feelings of excitement and relief and freedom from all the stress and the responsibilities of your day-to-day working life. And people in this stage are usually busy reconnecting with family and friends and spouses and spending time on hobbies and traveling and maybe even starting a new business because they just can't get out of the itch. The third stage is the one that has the most damage. It's the disenchantment stage. Now, once that emotional high of retiring has worn off, it's just kind of like a marriage, okay, and the honeymoon phase is over, many people feel a sense of disappointment and disillusionment. They spent so much time looking forward to retirement, so once it sets in, it can feel less exciting than it was hyped up to be, and they may end up feeling like something is missing in their lives. And so there are downsides, such as boredom and loneliness and feeling useless. Now, do you think money takes that away? It doesn't. Tony can tell you that. Talk to rich people. They'll tell you the money doesn't take that away. And if it's not addressed, it can just easily slip into a depression during this particular stage. Now, the fourth stage is the one that I want to lean us into. This is the direction I want you to see. And that's called the reorientation. So, often considered the most challenging stage. The reorientation usually occurs after retirees quickly go through their retirement to-do list, traveling off to see Timbuktu or Machu Picchu or whatever. They feel a loss of purpose and they begin to evaluate their retirement experience. So, reorientation involves creating a new entity that takes some time and effort to accomplish this. But once you've built a new entity, you can gain yourself a closure from your working days and move into an enjoyable retirement as meant to be enjoyed. To avoid falling into a rut and depression, it's crucial you find something that gives you a sense of meaningful purpose in life, such as pursuing a passion, volunteering, or adding new fun activities to your daily routine. And the fifth stage, which is the final one, is reconciliation and stability. The final stage, it can start like up to 15 years after the official start of retirement. The retirees in this stage are content, and they're hopeful in their transition will experience less depression and anxiety. And in this stage, retirees settle into a fun and rewarding retirement lifestyle, doing things that make them feel fulfilled. That's where it gets interesting, guys. While not every person will experience each stage as intensely or for some amount of time as others, most retirees will experience this process in some form once they start working. And then, like with any major transition in life, retirement comes with a whole array of emotions and worries. But if you thoughtfully plan out your transition to take care of yourself, both financially and emotionally, you can help ease the overwhelming emotions of this significant life transition and spend more time enjoying your new life to the fullest. All right, now I got this off of a really reputable, or what I consider, medical source. And from my experience in talking to people, because having done taxes for 31 years, I talk to tens of thousands of people, I see the same pattern. I see a lot of people that are just excited to get their retirement plan, put it all together, it comes to fruition, yay, we won, and then suddenly they find themselves fumbling and tumbling and not knowing what to do. They find themselves in a disenchantment state, and they give up. All right. So what I want to talk about now is how to cope with some of the post-RV disenchantment. Now, these next series of things are ideas I also got from other medical sources, but I'm going to try to reorient it back into what we're doing. So many experts suggest the following tips to help new retirees, okay, to make the transitions easier. Stay active, doing things both mind and body, such as taking a class, participating in sports, doing volunteer work, or even taking a part-time job. Strengthen social and family ties, so visit your kids, offer to babysit your grandkids so they don't drive you nuts. Make time to participate in activities with your friends, visit your local community center, and seek out activities that you enjoy so you can make new friends. You find a new sense of purpose. This is the one I want to really put in front of you. Maybe you can do volunteer work related to a former career, or maybe you'll always care deeply about a particular cause. Finding a new way to provide meaning to your life will restore the sense of purpose that you once found through your work. And then fulfill your dreams. Maybe you've always wanted to learn to play a musical instrument or perhaps to travel. Now is the perfect time. You have the freedom and you're still young enough to enjoy it. Go for it. And then finally, develop a schedule. So when you're used to planning your entire day around your job, it can be quite disconcerting to go having a totally unstructured day. Instead, you set up a schedule for yourself, creating set times, and you do work around the house, exercise, or do volunteer work. The key words I wanted you to get out of this particular one, guys, is a new sense of purpose. A new sense of purpose. You know, I don't know how to reiterate this. I have seen so many people who have won lotteries or have been receiving a huge inheritance, and they get nicknames that people call them. Oh, there's old Moneybags, as he comes in and buys a new pickup. Okay? They just blow through it. And then pretty soon they find themselves at a loss. They may have acquired all these wonderful earthly items, and then they find that they're not fulfilling. That truck, as great as it is, oh, it breaks down. Okay? I mean, there's just certain things that are never going to be fulfilling. So what I wanted to do tonight is have you take a look at one idea. I got a whole bunch of them, obviously, but this is one. How can considering a private foundation for future generations help me? How can it do it? Why freak do I care? Well, first, it's an option to pass on a legacy that could benefit generations of your heirs, way down the line. Second, it adds a purpose to your life you honestly couldn't access or think about before. So many people I talk about, they talk about, oh, then I'm going to have this and then I die. Oh, I'm going to be able to do this and then I die. Maybe you just need a different purpose. And third, probably the most important, it gives a whole new value to your life. If you've got something that sings to you and you do it, you've got a whole new purpose. So I want to take just a little bit and I want to go over what is a private foundation. What is it about? So broadly speaking, it's a nonprofit, either corporation or trust, that makes grants to organizations, institutions, or individuals for charitable purposes such as science, education, culture, and religion. Okay? It's much better than a public one. A private foundation is usually done by an individual, a family, or a company. Some entity source that's got a united front of something they wish to accomplish versus a public one. A public one goes out and solicits money from people out there in general in order to accomplish something. In this case is, you got the money, so what do you want to do? So how much do you need to start a private foundation? Okay, well, the initial fund establishment, generally accepted standards that a foundation will need initial funding for at least $500,000 to warrant the effort if using a third-party administrator. I'm going to introduce you to a third-party administrator later on. If the foundation is privately hiring a staff to handle all the administrative services, then $3 to $5 million in assets is preferable. Now, you're going to say, well, my God, Bob, that's a lot of money. I don't have that money right now. Well, that's true. I know you don't. I know you don't. So what? It doesn't make any difference at the moment. All we're doing right now is we're creating a catalog of information. So can you get paid from working in your own private foundation? Well, yeah, approximately 1/4 of all U.S. foundations compensate their trustees through salaries, fees, or stipends. Compensation amounts they vary all the time, and they're influenced by the size and type of the foundation and the nature of board services. Now, excuse me just a second. I got to wet my whistle. So under the current law, trustees of private foundation, which is what you would be, can be compensated in 3 different ways. They can be paid for professional services like accounting, legal, investment, banking, or for grant making when they serve as a staff program officer. They can also get paid for routine services, and the last is usually equated to a token reimbursement or stipend for board services, such as an annualized or per meeting basis. This is active income. This is not passive income. This is active income, meaning you have to be there and do something. So how do I start one? Okay, well, I'm going to show you this list of things that are here. Remember, you're going to get a copy of this, so don't get lost in this list I'm going to show you. But this is pretty much what it takes in order to start a private foundation. How do I know? I've helped do this before. You define your objective, you create your mission statement, you solidify your grant-making guidelines, you hire a legal team, you establish a board structure and appoint members, you consider your personal time investment versus hiring to manage the foundation. You determine if the foundation could cease and continue after your lifespan. You got to make that determination. Form your foundation, either a trust or a corporation under state law. apply for an EIN, which is no big deal, applied for the IRS tax-exempt 501c3, which is a big deal. That can take up to 2.5 years. File additional paperwork to obtain your tax exempt from your state, and then follow the IRS private foundation guidelines, which would include making grants worth 5% of your foundation's investment assets each year. Now, when you start out, let's just say you pumped in there $5 million. That's a number, okay? You actually have the first 3 years to be able to invest those funds and then make a distribution out of it. So you're not required right up front to have to get rid of part of that money. You could put it in there and put it to work and then distribute it. And you must provide grants only to other nonprofits or for educational scholarships. Okay, and you must pay up to 2% excise tax on the foundation's investment assets. Now, that 2% excise tax is also what's called a UBIT, or an unrelated business income tax. It's similar. It's not exactly, because this is an excise tax, but you're going to have to pay that. This is the only tax, except for payroll, that this thing's going to pay. That's it. 2% per year. Nothing to get lost over. So is there an easier way to create your own foundation? Well, absolutely, okay? There are multiple organizations that offer assistance in setting up and maintaining your private foundation. I have found 20 just to get started. So, do I set up the private foundation now? Well, what do you think? No, obviously, because it's just too freaking expensive. And second, you got to give yourself time. You got to determine what exactly your philanthropic objective is. Now, what's really interesting is you may sit here in this shadow of you don't know what you don't know and think short little thoughts. I want to feed people. I want to help clothe people. I want them to be able to have water. I want to be able to have medical assistance. You can have all these little small, short-sighted ones that are there. I'm not knocking them. I'm simply saying that as your money comes in and all of your personal stuff has been met, you begin to look, because the world's going to be different. Sitting on $30,000 a year of passive income coming off of Social Security is a lot different than $500,000 a year coming in off of something else. You're going to go see things you haven't seen before. You're going to go ahead and consult with those professionals, which I've told you to get a hold of, which, by the way, I call the Mighty 18 now because 666 seems to get me in trouble. So anyway, the Mighty 18, you're going to go see them, and they're going to give you ideas. And you're going to keep expanding your world. Why? Because you have the money and the time to do that. And when you do that, you're going to find, because the universe always gives it to you, what it is that makes you sing. What is it that's out there that's so important and so wonderful that you're willing to expend your time, your money, your effort, your family in order to get this thing to work? So that's really, really important. You don't know what it is. You don't know yet. Third, you're going to want to consider including your family and your heirs in planning of it. How many times do you remember as a kid, or even as a parent or a spouse, oh, we're going to do this now. What? You didn't ask me. You want to include them in it. The whole idea of the private foundation is to take a thought, a measurable philanthropic charitable desire that you love, and extend it. But it's also the opportunity for your heirs and your family to be able to participate in that dream, that world, and make an income off of it. Potentially a lifetime. Potentially generations of lifetimes could come off of this one thing that's right here. And then fourth, you're going to have to decide if you want to be part of the administration or be content to live on other passive income. You have to make that decision. Now, why should I consider a private foundation now? Well, most, and I mean the majority, IQD investors have charitable administrative desires for after the RV. Why? Because they learned that at church. And I have found the heart of the majority of the IQD investors is a giving heart. It makes me happy. I love my conversations. So while this can offer a way to make these desires applicable, it still takes financial strategy to ensure that steady income. And there are tax advantages to look at the private foundation that are hugely beneficial for ongoing and philanthropic ideas. So how do I create a strategy that will pay me now and for the rest of my life while contemplating a private foundation? Well, here's some things to consider. Number one, I love the Roth. Why? Because it's got my two favorite words, tax-free. And we do have the ability to be able to put our IQD into a Roth. There are some caps, some limitations on how that has to be done. You may be too old, you may be too young. There's all kinds of different things that can do, but it's a tax-free option. And the last one, which I consider to be extremely important, is the CRUT, because there are no caps. There's no time requirements. It can provide a lifetime of passive income, death and long-term health care insurance, and be distributed out to charities upon your passing for a legacy. And then you can exchange your IQD in the CRUT so it's tax-free. It's a tax-free event, but you'll get taxed on the funds that you receive as the beneficiary. So let's talk about the Roth for just a little tiny bit. So if you're considering a Roth, here's some things that you need to be aware of. Okay, there's a 5-year aging requirement, and the good news is it's calendar and not fiscal, which means if I start it in December, I got the whole year clear back to January. And what's even cooler, if you want to make a contribution to a Roth, you have clear till April 15th to get that done. So let's just say that, yes, Bob, I want to do that. I'm having trouble making it happen right now. Okay, well, cool. You still got till April 15th of 2023 to be able to pick up 2022. You don't have to do it today, except for the fact that if the RV happens on Friday at 3 o'clock, okay, you wouldn't be ready. But you do have time to do it. I love the fact that it's calendar. This is really cool. And if you already have a Roth of any kind, that's the start date, not the day you open up the Roth for your IQD. The start date is from the older Roth that you already have. And the funds, they must come from active earnings, except in the case where you can roll it over. And we'll talk about that. Meaning retirement passive income, they just you can't use them. So if your income is over the allowable cap, and we'll discuss that, you can still create it, an IRA, a regular old IRA, and then convert it to a Roth. This is called a backdoor Roth, by the way, and it bypasses that particular cap. Now, a hint, the option is being challenged by the current administration, but it's not been changed at this moment. It's still available. The requirements for the Roth would be, if you file taxes as a single person, your modified adjusted gross income, they call it MAGI, must be under $144,000 for the tax year 2022, and to contribute to a Roth. And if you're married, it's got to be under $214,000. Now, the maximum total contribution for all your IRAs combined. So if you've got another IRA or you've got multiple Roths, the total collective amount that you're going to be allowed to put in is $6,000 if you're under 50, $7,000 if you're over 50. You must be 59 and a half to withdraw your gains after the 5-year aging period tax-free. You have to be that age, with a couple of exceptions. Now, this is kind of cool. If you're buying your first home, or if your children are buying a first home, or if your grandchildren are buying a first home, or if your parents or your grandparents are buying their first home, you can withdraw $10,000 from your Roth tax and penalty free. Now, what's really interesting is obviously you can double that if you're married. All right, so you can take $20,000 out. Now, one of the things the Biden administration is bringing back in is a credit for first home buyers. We didn't have that under the Trump administration, but we do have it under the current administration. So you can pull this money out and still get a tax break. Pretty cool. Other types of situation, withdraw and not pay the penalty. You know, for example, like you can draw money out to go to school. You can draw money out because of medical insurance. You can draw money out if you're on the reserve and you get called to active duty. But the only thing you can do is you avoid the penalty. You'll still get taxed on that money if you pull it out early. Now, all of this requires what's called a custodial service. And the custodial service, I call them the gatekeepers, okay, because they properly report and administer an IRA for you in front of the IRS. So they report all the activities on behalf of your IRA and your Roth, and there's very few, I mean, we're talking like 5 or 6, that'll deal with the IQD. And there's 2 types of Roth that will accept using your IQD, and the first one is the Precious Metal Roth, which is my favorite. This type of Roth is designed for precious metals and exotic currencies in hard notes that can be stored and traded at a later date. It requires a special custodial service, and there's only 5 of them right at the moment, which requires the IQD must be purchased by the custodial. So what that means is the IQD you've got on hand, you can't put in here. You can't just package it up and ship it to them. It don't work that way. It still has to fit within the constraints of what the IRS says. What's your income cap? How much can you allowed to be putting in there? If you're under 50, it's $6,000. If you're over 50, it's $7,000. That's it. So the Roth has to purchase it through the custodial service, and then it has to be stored in a vaulting service away from you. It cannot be in your immediate vicinity. Now here's the pro, and the things why I like this. It ensures compliance with the IRS standards, and it's easy to maintain those compliances. Now the other option is a one-member LLC self-directed IRA. Now this type of Roth is, once again, not available from a lot of custodial services. It requires establishing an account with the custodial, opening an LLC, registering it in the state you live in, with an acceptable operating agreement, which you have to create and then share it with the custodial service, and they have to accept it to handle all the investments on behalf of your Roth. That business, that LLC, is going to do all the investing for you. You're opening a bank account on behalf of the LLC, and you're sending funds to the custodial. Then you receive them back. So let's say, for example, you're under 50. How much can you send them? Those of you who said $6,000, congratulations. Some of you who said over or under, nope, $6,000. Okay, now purchasing the IQD, potentially using a vaulting service to ensure compliance and the ease of exchange. Even those who have the one-member LLC, I still encourage them to use the vaulting service. And I'll cover that in detail a little bit later here too. Now the big con, I go through these stages, and oftentimes I think, man, having your own one-member LLC, you can put in real estate, you can do crypto, you can do all these different things inside it. Whoa, wow, that's really awesome. Except if you make a mistake. If you make a mistake, if you do something that would challenge the integrity of that Roth, you can lose the whole freaking thing. So I choose easy. I choose easy. Excuse me, I got to wet my whistle one more time. I want to let you know that the CRUT is the gateway to the majority of the things that you want to do. It is tremendous, powerful what it can do. So what I want you to do now is we're just going to take a look at what can we do with this thing here called the CRUT. First of all, it defers and reduces taxes, on your IQD exchange. So instead of walking into the bank and giving them $1 million and giving it 50%, it doesn't do that. It can offer you and your spouse a lifetime of income with a lower tax rate. It can offer you and your spouse 20 years of income if you're under the age of 40. It can potentially offer a death and long-term health care benefits inside the CRUT. It can be invested in various options to maintain or increase its value. It's tax-free inside the exchange. So when you cash in your IQD and it goes into the CRUT bank account, that's not a taxable event. We didn't give up 50% to get things started. We got all of it. All of it. You can give, it can give your remaining funds to up to 6 charities of your choosing. Okay? You can give the remaining funds to your private foundation. This is why I'm telling you to think about it, guys, and maintain that charitable desires after I'm gone. And then my private foundation can obviously potentially provide income to my heirs and their heirs for generations yet to come. And then finally, it reduces my estate taxes. So let's take a look at the tax benefits of the CRUT. Let's just say we start out with $1 million. Okay, it came in at $1 even. I got $1 million IQD. I'm going to go exchange it. Well, first of all, the federal taxes, if I go to my bank and exchange it, if I'm single, is $329,429. If I'm married, it's a much lower rate, $297,236. And that's leaves me, if I'm single, $670,000 and some change to be able to invest or to spend it. And then if I'm married, I get $702,000 and some change, to be able to invest it or to spend it. Oh, and then you get to add on state, county, and city taxes, which depends upon where you live. And then potentially you could lose 50% of that in taxes. And then when you invest it, all the gains coming off of it is still going to be taxed. Tax, 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 tax. However, if you use the CRUT, same $1 million, well, the federal taxes is Zippo. City and state is Zippo. There's no taxes there. So you have the full $1 million that you can invest. Now, it's going to pay you 5%. So let's say it does it for 20 years. That's your $100,000. Your $1 million coming back to you in 20 years. Well, the rate that you paid in taxes for being single was only $85,960 versus $329,000. And if you're married, it's only $51,860. And the city, county, state, that's going to obviously be much less. And over 100% went into your investment and your future gains. Inside the umbrella of the CRUT are tax-free. Versus whatever it is you got out here that you already pay taxes on, when it makes a gain, you're paying taxes again. So, by using a CRUT, I can save, if I'm single, $243,469, and if I'm married, $245,000 and some change. That's dang near $250,000 that's back in your pocket. So stop and think about it for just a moment. Okay? If I use that nasty thing I call the freedom tax and go and exchange $1 million IQD, and they're going to suck up this much away from me, why would I want to do that? Now let's go back to one of the questions we started with at the very beginning. How much money do you need to be comfortable? How much do you need? And this is where the CRUT comes into play. You can put enough into this CRUT to be able to give you $50,000, $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, $500,000, $1 million a year. And it'll still save you money. So, that concludes the first section, which is the learning. The rest of it's going to go faster, guys. Hang in there. We're going to go into the planning part. Now, I asked you earlier some of those questions. I just had a singular purpose. I just take a serious look at when you purchased your IQD, to glimpse your intentions, how much have you acquired since then, the desires you wish to fulfill, and what plans have you made thus far to reduce, defer, to eliminate them. Those are important key questions. Now, when we first jumped into this, I know for me, 15 years ago, well, I didn't think about that. I just heard it's going to be this coming weekend. So I went out and bought a lot of it. Consider some other possibilities. Now, how can you get more from your investing? Well, I just showed you that you're going to give up that much just doing it regularly, so put it in the CRUT. What long-term ideas can you implement to provide for yourself, your loved ones, and perhaps even those not born yet? What charitable options and ideas really sing to you? And what I have done so far to accomplish my goals. What have you accomplished so far? What taxes are applicable to your IQD windfall gain? Which ones are most important for you to take care of, and which ones are most important to my family? Now, there are ways to extend this investment beyond what my original ideas were. One more time. It's more psychological than anything else. We get imprinted as we go through life. And we have our own set of limitations that we impose. We look for our limitations. We embrace, we enable and endear our limitations because we think they're so important. That's what gives us what we call our identity, our life. That's what it was. When this thing comes to fruition, that's going to get really knocked around. Now, you may keep it still in a very small frame. That's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. But the whole purpose of it is to get you beyond that. One more time. You don't know what you don't know. Can I qualify for completely tax-free gain for myself? That's a cool idea. If I'm too young or old, what options do I have? And what taxes can I actually implement a plan about now? Okay, so while we're talking about the other taxes, I want to talk about the big ugly one. Estate taxes. Now, like I said, Some people don't give a dang. When they die, it's over with. That ain't my problem no more. My kids can figure out something on their own. I don't care. How many people have I run into that said that? Less than 1%. Everybody has a charitable desire and sharing desires, and that's it. That's just it. So this estate taxes is the one I really want to focus on right now at the moment. Okay, now, currently we're still under the caps and the allowances from the Trump administration, thank God. So right now the cap, before we start getting hit with all these taxes on the estates, is at $12 million per person. So if you're married, that's $24 million. Yay! That's really good. That's like, man, I can breathe in this, and it's still only 40%, although that's what they wanted to increase that to 45. It didn't get passed. Now, it was scheduled to stay this way until 2025, and this was to go back down to $7 million per person. Now, this is on the chopping block. Now, the elections that are coming up, like I know all of us are looking at voting on right at the moment, is key as to whether we're going to be able to keep some of these benefits that came through the Trump administration or lose them. And then we're going to see massive devastational changes in the tax world. Now, I kind of anticipate we're going to see it anyway because of the amount of money that we're sending and spending on this Ukrainian mess. But we'll just see. We'll just see. Okay? So if you anticipate the RV is going to be $1 for $1, one IQD is going to be $1, then you need to seriously consider the potential amount that's going to be left in your estate when you died if you're still holding large amounts of IQD in your possession, and the potential change in the cap from the new administration. So the ways to reduce your potential estate taxes from any administration changes got to be taken a look at. So let's take a look and see some ideas. Now, because our estate situation is considered a fluid minefield, I created that, by the way, it's subject to more radical changes than ordinary or capital gains have ever been. Nothing has been stuck out there that does more to take money away from successful business people or successful financial people than the estate taxes. And they did it that way on purpose, thinking, oh, well, they don't care. They're dead. So we'll snatch our piece, we'll name some kind of an off-turn in Washington, D.C. on their behalf. No, this is why I want all of us, because I know so many of you have that same thing in your heart about wanting to do charitable work or share with others. I'd much rather see you do that than offload it through these estate taxes. These are freaking ugly. So, how much do you have in IQD before the estate is even an issue? Okay, so if the RV is 1 for 1, then the first thing you got to consider is how much IQD you have on hand, including your Roth and the last amount from Warco right now. So take a moment and add those up. What do you have on hand? What do you got in a Roth? Because yes, it's considered part of your estate. And how much do we have hiding in Warca land? So if you've got less than 12 million, well, there isn't an immediate threat. Whew, you can breathe easy, okay? And if you're married, up to 24 million, wow, we can really breathe easy now. And if you got more than that, then you need to start thinking, how can you reduce those taxable estates? And if the RV is more than $1, let's just say you got it to $1.50. I know we keep hearing noises, all kinds out there in the guru world. Oh, it's got to be $12. No, obviously that's not going to happen. But we know they want to get back up to $3. So what's going to happen? So if you've got less than 5 million, then there really isn't much to worry about. And if you have more than 5 million, then some planning needs to be put into place. So what options are to reduce or even eliminate those potential estate taxes? My favorite one for doing this is the gifting assignments. Okay? With the intent to share the actual notes. All right? You're not giving them money, the actual notes. That way it reduces the amount you've got in your estate, and you still accomplish that charitable or lovable family thing you wanted to get done. Now, these notes, the gifting assignments notes themselves, must be done before the RV. This is not something you can do post-RV and have it be in effect. Why? Because right now we're allowed to give up to $16,000, okay? Right now we're limited. If I give more than $16,000 to anybody, I've got to file a gifting tax return. the gifting tax return is held against me on my estate. So this is why we do it now when the value is so freaking low. And by preparing them now, we're identifying the gift prior to the RV. So the value being as low as it is at the moment. So make a lot of these. I keep telling people make at least 6, okay, or more. We don't know the rate. So being prepared and having multiples is really the best thing to do. Now, some other options to consider on these nasty estate taxes should include your charitable giving. So you can give IQD to legitimate 501c3 charities now, particularly cash ones like religious, amateur. I got armature on there. Well, I misspelled it. Sports and education, and you get 100% write-off on your Schedule A. Now, here's a hint. This is currently available because of the Trump era. Okay, but it's also going to disappear in the near future. They wanted to get rid of it, this last couple of years with the new administration. They got stopped. It didn't happen. Okay. So you want to include your charitable giving in your will. Okay, and another option is something called an irrevocable life insurance trust. Now, this is something that I know that Dave has available, but for the most part, nobody's going to need this until after the RV. There's no reason to go through the cost of putting this together at this point in time. So if you've got a regular life insurance policy, the funds will be included in your estate taxes. So creating an irrevocable life insurance makes the payments to your heirs free from the estate taxes. And one of the hints is the payments of the premiums need to be less than $16,000 per year per person, or they will be included as a gift subject to reporting gifting tax returns. Okay, $16,000 a year would come out to about $1,200 a month, somewhere along that line for a premium. The other one, obviously, is our Charitable Remainder UniTrust, our CRUT. Okay, now as I previously explained in our Learn portion, the CRUT is a valuable tool for many things, but reducing the estate taxes can be a great one just by itself. So the funds that are dedicated to the CRUT are considered charitable donations. You get to write them off on your taxes the day you put them in. So, yay. And upon your passing, the remaining funds will be given to those charities that you selected, and they're not included in your estate at all. So the remaining funds, they must go to a 501c3. Now, note this last part, which could include your private foundation. So a quick review. State taxes, yucky, are fluid. They're subject to radical changes. Keeping the caps in mind and making sure your estate is safely under the caps will assist your heirs and reduce those losses. If your IQD is under $5 million, then you may not have an immediate consideration. But the value is $1 or more, or if the current administration is able to change the caps down to $5 million, which is what they proposed, Bernie wanted to take it to $1 million, you may need to consider taking some actions. Hint. It serves to make gifting assignments no matter how much IQD you have, just to be safe. What's the cool part about the gifting assignments is you create them, you store them, and you don't have to do anything with them until you need them. So, including charitable giving in your will can obviously reduce the estate taxes, and consider that irrevocable life insurance trust. That's going to help also. And then capitalize on the CRUT as a means to reduce those estate taxes and provide a lifetime income, meet your charitable legacy desires, provide a potential death and long-term health insurance thing, and potentially be given to create your private foundation for future generations. Now, guys, you've heard me say this, 6 times? Somewhere along that line? I'm going to say it a couple more times through the presentation. I want you to get the value of the CRUT. Not everybody's going to be able to get a Roth. You're too old, too young, your passive income, whatever it may be, you may not qualify. Okay? But pretty much anybody can get a CRUT, even if you're younger. And one of the last options is, of course, never die. And then you won't have an estate problem. Yeah, okay. Then we know our IQD investment is going to be considered ordinary income, and it's not going to be capital gains. I've said that 3 times now. And here's some simple things I want you to keep in mind. To reduce your freedom tax exposure by exchanging slowly. This is particularly true, okay, if you know the tax rates don't change, but last year they didn't change the rates. What they did is they changed the caps. So you have a lower number before it bumps up into that rate. Keeping your taxable income below $400,000. You've heard me say that in the past. Helps reduce the threat of more income taxes. Now, here's the other little hidden thing that's in that agenda that they're trying to bring to the table, is they want to propose an additional tax on anybody who makes over $1 million, potentially up to 3%. So when you go in and exchange that IQD, and if you exchange it all, man, take a look at the gap it's just going to be there. So if your IQD holdings are smaller, let's just say you got a couple of million, it does go 1 for 1. You might consider just buying some of your desired items like a house or a car or whatever and buy them on time instead of outright. Cash in enough to make your down payment. All right? And then that will reduce your taxable exposure, which will be much less than what you're paying on interest for those items. I would highly suggest you consider looking at the Precious Metal Roth, because that is the only one that's going to give you, the original guy who has the money, the break. And this is easy to establish and maintain. It absolutely ensures IRS compliance. It ensures your heirs can also receive those Roth funds tax-free and allows you to have the freedom to do with them whatever you wish. Okay? And you can invest them under the umbrella of the Roth with more tax-free gain. So once your Roth is established, let's just say you haven't got the 5 years met yet. Fine. You can still cash in the IQD when it comes to fruition and invest it in other ways. All those gains, tax-free umbrella, it's all yours. It's tax-free when you hit that 59.5 mark or the 5-year thing. And you may want to consider using an annuity, both for the Roth and the CRUT. It's a great way to do it. All right. I'm going to move down this next part kind of quickly because we're going a little bit long on our time, and I know that Tony's got some stuff he wants to share. So as shown in the earlier slides, there's a massive tax savings in just using the CRUT. And they can provide that income for the rest of your life and use those charitable contributions to lower your taxable income. Now, currently, we get 100% write-off. I already told you that. That's really important to know. Now, if that changes to what they want to get accomplished under the new administration, they're going to limit how much you're going to be able to write off on your Schedule A, and it's going to drop down to 60%. So if you make over $400,000, you aren't going to be able to take anything off. Nothing. Nothing. So note, also, not all charities that you want to give them to are going to accept your IQD directly. So you want to make sure you have a conversation with them first and then get the receipt under the new exchange value. Something else a lot of people talk to me about, I find it interesting. They're in California. They want to go to Nevada. Gee, why? There's nothing there. Well, because it's, it doesn't have an income tax. Okay, I understand that. Well, neither does Alaska, Florida, Nevada, obviously, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and the lovely state of Wyoming. These don't have, now, they most likely have sales tax. Okay. But they don't have an income tax. So you want to balance this out carefully. If you've got a substantial amount of IQD and you're living in that state called California or New York, New Jersey, you may take a look at saying, hey, I'm going to get out of here. Okay? So we've done all of that. Now we're going to go to implement these plans. So this won't take very long. So where do we start? There's several things you can do. Okay? First of all, how much IQD do you have? If you've got 1 million or less, there's not a heck of a lot you can do. Okay, you're just simply in a position you're going to have to do an exchange. You're going to have to monitor what your taxes are, and that's it. That's it. Okay, purchasing those larger items and reducing those, and paying on time. The gifting assignments, everybody should be doing these. These will help reduce that estate tax immensely. You also want to make multiples for each person. Okay, and you store them as PDF files. You then print and you store the printed documents. Don't give them out. You don't give them out until you figure you have to. We don't know that till we know the rate. Notarization is not required if we can prove the rate. That's why we have them as PDF files. And they can be completed when you know the rate and then calculate the potential estate caps at that time. And they should be given to the intended recipients after the IV with the actual notes. Don't cash it in and give them the money. That's a taxable event for you. Make them be responsible for it. You could even consider telling them to look at a CRUT. You hand them the golden egg. They decide how they're going to cook it. Next question is, do you currently have a Roth? Well, great. If you already got a Roth of any kind, for heaven's sake, take a serious look at doing a cotton picking precious metal Roth. I mean, it's so simple. And the other part of it is, if you got sitting there that's not doing anything, then you can use those funds to open up your precious metal Roth and buy IQD. So what will it cost you out of pocket? Practically nothing. And you may even consider moving it over to the same custodial service so that you've got a lesser fee. And any funds that's currently Roth, like I said, you can be used to buy those IQDs. If you don't have a Roth now, remember the caps, okay? Create the Roth for the custodial service. Purchase the IQD from a licensed dealer. If you want to sell some IQD that's on hand to have that go to the custodial purchases, as a member of Max Plans, we have the ability to do that among ourselves, and you don't get hit that 30%. So when you're doing this, you want to look at the Roth. You're taking into consideration if you're over 60 and you're waiting an extra 5 years, it may not be worth it. If you're under 60, waiting till you're 59 and a half, that's a way off. I got somebody who's 19 that's done this. But you can build a retirement, tax-free. And the income to purchase IQD must be from active earnings, W-2, 1099, or self-employed. Passive income doesn't work. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the CRUT. Okay. For most IQD investors, this is the best option. Now, I can tell you right now, of all the members that we have on Max Plans, half of them are doing the CRUT. Half. Because it's so applicable to their particular circumstance. All right? It reduces estate taxes, it reduces income taxes, it defers, and you get paid monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annually, and it includes those death benefits. Okay, this is the way you're going to extend that legacy. Okay, and then obviously we talked about the irrevocable life insurance. So those are all the things that you can do or get ready for or at least know about. Like I said, that the irrevocable life insurance trust, not something you're going to do now. I just want you to be aware of it. So this is where Max Plans for Life comes into play. First of all, it's owned by David Stephenson. David is an attorney. He lives in Salt Lake City. He's been doing this for 30 years. He specializes in estate planning. That's his gig. Okay, the basic options that we're being offered here are all tried, true, and we call them vanilla. There's nothing sneaky about any of this stuff that's being thrown out here. I'm not telling you to go to some offshore account. I'm not telling you to create some kind of a thing in Nevada. None of that stuff. None of that stuff. These are the ones that are proven to give you the best breaks and give you the best options for your entire investment. So the gifting assignments, we're doing them digitally. That means you can do them in the middle of the night in your underwear. I know you've heard me say that many times. And you can do as many as you want. There's no extra cost. I had somebody ask me the other day, I did one. Do you know the $100? No. You can do all of them you want. Just keep going. Make as many as you possibly can. We get you access to that precious metal Roth. We have the custodial dealers that deal with that. We also have the vaulting service. And then obviously we can create your personalized Charitable Remainder UniTrust. That's what we bring to the table. These are the things that will do the most. And then we also have our members' website. So I keep updating with information about banks, work a bank, exchange centers, make that space available to where you're able to, sell your IQD, get it for the same amount that would cost you to buy it. And why would people do that? Well, because I got members who have their own one-member LLC who are looking to buy IQD from a private source, or people who just want to buy from a private source. They don't want to go through a dealer to get their IQD, so they buy it here. And finally, one of the things that I really want to make sure that everybody really understands, you can still have access to me for a free 30-minute conversation. Okay? Now, up front, and when I talk to you, I tell you right up front, okay? I'm not a financial planner. I don't give tax advice. Now that sounds like, well, but you are. No, I'm not. I'm only showing you some options that can assist you. My role is simply to review your situation, have a conversation, and put some ideas on the table. The final selection, anything's up to you. And I do not manage member finances, which also means I don't do tax returns. Now you can make an appointment with me by following the links I'm going to send to you to be able to make this appointment with me and access the website at maxplansforlife.com. So some people ask me, why am I doing this? What's in it for me? Well, I can tell you for several reasons why I do it. First of all, I, like you, I'm an IQD investor coming into my 15th year. I'm no different than you. I'm doing the same thing. I, like you, I rode that guru roller coaster until I found some professional help, and then, most likely not like you, I did get access to some really sharp minds in the legal, accounting, financial planning profession because of my tax preparation career. I got access to people all over the freaking United States. It was amazing. And then, like you, I found Tony. And he's a great resource for all these geopolitical domains and the effect they have on our investments. And finally, like you, I really want to be ready because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This isn't going to come around again. Now, Attorney David Stephenson, he is the owner of Max Plans for Life. And I'm so lucky to share these options with you because, quite frankly, he believes in it too. So, the service of our Max Plans that brings to the table has been here for years, and this was our fee schedule. So the full package, which gets you the gifting assignments, the Roth, the CRUT, and access to the website, is $3,000. The CRUT only, with all of the gifting assignments and access to the website, is $2,500. The Roth only with the gifting assignments and the website is $500, and then the gifting assignments only with access was $100. Now, things have changed. Because we're looking at servicing all the members' desired options, which we've got a substantial group, and we believe this time is coming soon, it's not getting further away, we decided to make some changes. So we're offering for the month of May, and the month of May only, the following discounts. The full package, $2,500. The CRUT only, $2,000. The Roth, $400. And the gifting assignments, $90. In addition to that, okay, I'm going to be emailing you the following. Obviously, a link to this presentation, a link to a presentation done for our members that goes into the details of the CRUT and the private foundations, link to make an appointment with me. I'm going to attach a PDF of this presentation. That way you can just skip through it in a hurry instead of listening to it for 2 hours. Attach an ebook, which is detailing how to set up a private foundation. And then note, this is from a separate service. We're not compensated or it's not associated with it at all. I just happen to think it's one of the best ebooks out there. And I got one more thing I want to share with you, and I've shared with it previously, and this has to do with the Idaho Armored Vault Services. This is great. I mean, this is the one that most of the custodial services do when they send the IQD for the precious metal. It goes to Boise. It goes there. And I've dealt with this group for several years now, and I'm completely confident in what they can do for us. And besides the vaulting service for the precious metal, they can also store and exchange your private and CRUT intended IQD. Stop and think about that for a second. The announcement comes out. Bob, in all his jubilance, says, "It's Friday, it's 3 o'clock, yay, here it is." The whole world knows. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the emotion that's going to run through it? The two biggies, fear and greed, they're always there. Okay? The frantic calling to find somewhere to make that exchange. Well, the bank don't know what they're going to do yet. It's too early. Some of the exchange centers, yeah, we'll do it for 30%. That's not what these guys offer. What they offer is, because he's already dealing with gold and silver and other precious items, is that what they do is they make calls, they find the cheapest, lowest rate, the spread, and then they do the exchange with them. Now, the other thing I like about these guys is this. Okay, you can send your IQD in through the mail. It doesn't make any difference. That's fine. When they receive it, they run it through their own machine, just like a Delarue machine, to verify it's not counterfeit. And the banks trust them, so they don't have to have their own machine. After that, they weigh and take a picture of it and send it to you for your records. When this RV happens, they can exchange it on your behalf with the cheapest spread available from different sources, okay? And they just, now, we've got a directive that's on our members' website that you can fill out and send back into them and tell them what to do with it. so they can cash it in and deposit it into your personal account, cash it in, put it into your CRUT account, or if you want, you can just have them send the notes back to them. Whatever you desire, they can facilitate it. That's why I like them. I'm also going to send you a link to them, along with an audio that we had with Bob Coleman, who's the owner. A note. Max Plans for Life, I'm not compensated. We're not compensated at all for sharing the vaulting service. And we're not responsible for any damage or losses that may occur while your IQD is in their possession. I've satisfied the attorneys. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to do real quick on this one. This is simple. Securing your personal financial well-being. All right, so now for those of you who met with me before, I remind you of the little red hen. I've had so many people that are more interested in the IQD thing to give away than take care of themselves. Making sure that you take care of yourself is to do that. And these max plans that we bring will satisfy 90% of what everybody wants to get accomplished. So taking advantage of those plans now can help prepare you, all right? So you taken care of. And that's going to bring you something that I have been hinting at in this whole entire presentation, is peace of mind. How would it feel to know everything's all done? I know how I feel. Everything's all done. When this thing comes to fruition, I'm going to make one call. I'm not done. Okay? I don't have to worry about it. It's all taken care of. You can do the same thing. You can do exactly the same thing. Now, when you take a look at the cost to do that, it's quite minimal. When you consider saving literally millions of dollars, remember I showed you that what the CRUT could do, okay? And usually just doing a CRUT all by itself runs about $5,000. So that's the first one there. And then now I want you to look beyond. Now, like you, I often consider what it is that I want from my IQD investment. Why the hell am I in this thing after all these years and all of the fake, yeah, here it comes things? You know, having all the plans needed put in place is so much easier than dancing and drowning in that guru domain. All of you have been there. You know what I'm talking about. And I'm confident in what I'm doing. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I've got the experience of working with professionals who, like us, everybody I work with, they've got IQD in their portfolio. It's there. It's for them. And to share this with you, it gives me peace. I'm a firm believer in these two things. Number one, giving and receiving are exactly the same thing. You can't have one without the other. And I get back whatever I give to others. I love my conversations with you guys. I learn so much. So my invitation is, now's the time to get yourself, get it done. Get your confidence put in place. And then that great big blowout that comes out in the middle of retirement, that disenchantment, disillusionment spot that's in the middle, well, if you're all ready to go, you've got the time to expand those viewpoints that you have to say, what do I really want to do? Where do I want to be of benefit? How can I make this thing work so that countless people, not just my family, potentially millions of people are going to be blessed of this investment that came my way. So let's take some time, consider more about the future. This is why I started the whole thing about future generations, because quite frankly, they're the ones that's going to fill that void, that spot that sits there. So when this thing comes to fruition, are you ready to step up to another level of being, of existing? And can you expand your personal horizons to consider this soon-to-becoming blessing going beyond just today? So I decided to do this. That's a really cool picture frame. So who can you see in this picture frame? Now, something that gaudy needs to have something in it that's extremely important. Is it just you, or is it your church? Is it your bank account? Is that what you want in there to hang on the wall? Is it your house? Is it your car? Is it your vacation pictures? Is that what you want to hang on the wall with a frame like this? Or could it be pictures of you and your family standing in front of your private foundation office and the faces of countless others that have been blessed because of your willingness to step up and do more than just feather your own pocket? So what do you see? I know it's kind of a deep thought. Believe me, I do this with myself all the time. I have to. because I find myself caught in limited thinking. It's a pattern. And breaking free of it requires some effort. So what do you want to see? What do you want? What do you want? So now it comes down to this. We're almost to the end. This is it. Now what? Well, let's see. Some of you are going to say, I do not have a plan to reduce my taxes. I haven't taken the time to learn what those options are. I've done some planning, but never in regards to reducing, deferring, or eliminating taxes on this thing. And I haven't considered the possibility of a lifetime of income as an option. All I've done is drool, chase around on the hamster wheel. And that's it. And I never actually thought about extending this windfall past my death and assisting my heirs and others with this blessing. I'm not ready. I'm going to sleep through it. Or I've learned about the what and hows of IQD tax planning. I am comfortable with my plans. I've done my gifting assignments. You know what's really fun for me? You guys, we use a program called 17 Hats. And when I talk to you, I'm looking at information that you've given us on our questionnaires. And I can see all of these gifting assignments you've done. I got somebody who's got over 100 of them. It's awesome. It makes me happy. It's really great. I've determined or completed the Roth for my tax-free gains for myself, and I've determined or established a Charitable Remainder UniTrust to provide a lifetime income and meet my charitable desires, and I am considering what's really important and what can I do for future generations. I'm ready. I'm ready. So, guys, I'm going to stop here. And for those who've been following Tony and myself for any period, you've heard all this before. Okay, I sit here and I espouse all the virtues of tax planning for our IQD investment options, and I offer my time to visit with you, which I consider honestly to be a blessing for myself, and I learn so much from my time. It's just completely worth it to be able to have a conversation with you. So Max Plans for Life is reduce their fees in order to complete this tax planning for the entire month of May. It'll go till the end of May, and then it's going to go back up. It's a substantial savings. I mean, I know I told you already that CRUT usually runs 5K or more. So we're going to be doing this webinar again on the 24th. That's 2 weeks from now. For those that may not know or want to have taken advantage of that May fees change, okay, I'd strongly encourage you to encourage other IQD holders to attend that upcoming webinar on the 24th. Everybody who owns IQD needs to see this stuff. They're in that realm of, I don't know that I don't know. You can open the door for them. And what would happen if instead of being caught in that tumbling, horrible mess that the guru will present, then they could have peace. Everything's put in order. Everything's ready to go. Wouldn't they hold you in a different spot to say, wow, look what I got from you? If you have any questions, make an appointment with me, guys. You know how to do it. If you're ready to take advantage of it, just follow the link and join us. I'll send that link out with the email. And if you already have a Precious Metal Roth or other types of options, but not the CRUT, go to the members website and sign up there, and you get even a greater discount. Okay. So now it's my time to turn this thing over to Tony. Okay, which I know all of us have been waiting to have a conversation with. And I want you to remember we'll be doing our Q&A afterwards up until 7 p.m. Pacific. So we've got about a little over half an hour to be able to answer some questions here. So I'm going to say, Tony, my friend, are you there? I hate it when it leaves me lingering in the dark like this.
Can you hear me, Bob?
I gotcha. I gotcha. All right.
Excellent.
It's all yours, guys.
I'm just going to go over a few things just for a little bit. It's not going to take very long, and then I guess we'll do a open floor questions. So first of all, you guys, let me throw this out there, all right? Because I've been going through with a company on the different types of investments that have been out there for the last 20 years and the advantages and who wins, who loses. I'm trying to figure out certain types of cycles. So let me throw out a couple examples, all right? One of them was right after, you had the big real estate boom, and then all the way up until 2008. And then 2008, because of the oil prices, guess what? It exposed weak investment strategies, which had to do with putting together all this junk and selling it to other countries, and it was all attached to real estate. All right? Well, right after that, that was 2008. Right after that, there was another big scam that came along, and it had to do with reverse mergers. And what that involved was you had companies in China that were you had companies in China that had representation in the West. So what they would do is they would have, by law, you can go get a company that's on NASDAQ, and let's just say it's an old mining company or something like that, 50, 60 years old, but really wasn't performing. You could do what's called a reverse merger. And so what you would do is you would have these Chinese companies that would get together with an existing American company, and they would take over. But you got to be listed on NASDAQ. All right, so now you're a listed American company. But what was going on in the background is if you would go to the companies in China, nothing existed. They were a shell. It was fraud. So every one of these types of, and I'm not saying every investment, but there's all these cycles that are out there. All this stuff that's going on. And so, what about cryptocurrency? Is that fraud? Is that the next big thing that's about to burst, or is it about to climb, or, what's going on? So that's what I want to talk to you guys a little bit about. All right? And then what is it that you're doing, how to avoid that 100%? How do you avoid that? How do you get out of that? How do you make sure, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't go out and take the risk and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, out of all those, what's the guaranteed, if I was to invest, you have a product and you're getting a return on it, what's the guarantee that you're going to make the most? And so we'll talk about that here a little bit. But first of all, I want to read this article that's out, because I'm getting a lot of feedback from people. And you guys, what it comes down to, the U.S. dollar and what people believe, it ends up becoming a religion. All right? So there's guys that are listening to this right now. It is part of their religion to predict that the U.S. dollar is coming down, because it's been part of their vocabulary. It's been part of what they've been listening to. It's a part of how everything's supposed to work, right? And that would indicate that that it's supposed to work. So, right off the bat, people are triggered improperly, investing incorrectly. So let me read this. This is today. All of Wall Street is lining up behind the dollar's historic run. Well, wait a minute. Tony, the historic run, what about the debt? What about the inflation? It has nothing to do with our debt. It has nothing to do with our inflation. The inflation is causing people to go to the U.S. dollar. All right? Debt has nothing to do with the value of a currency. I don't know where people get this from. But remember, we're talking about this stuff in regards to what is it that you're doing, how do you always win. Cryptocurrencies are, whatever gains that started in the year 2000 have completely evaporated. Amazon, all the gains that they got during the COVID period, because people stayed home and they got COVID money and they just clicked buy and buy. eBay, their profits have evaporated. So how is it possible that the U.S. dollar is gaining steam and gaining value? How is that possible? So let me read this. So this is from Wall Street, Yahoo Finance, and there's a couple of versions that are on Bloomberg and stuff like that. So the turbulence in global markets is throwing a lot of mixed signals, but there's one that everyone is agreeing on, and this is very bullish time for the U.S. dollar. Goldman Sachs Group, Inc., Morgan Stanley, J.P. Morgan Chase, Company City Group, Inc., Bank of America, and Associate General SA are all telling clients that as long as fear runs through the markets, the U.S. currency will keep charging higher. So what is actually pushing the U.S. dollar higher? You guys, it's the ultimate insurance policy. Getting into the U.S. dollar is the ultimate insurance policy. All right? There's no other alternative. Said Kit Juckus, chief FX strategist at General. If we get one big single bad event in the world, or a big fall in equities, or a geopolitical event, hello, Ukraine, the dollar will spike higher. So certainly nobody wants to be short in it. So to give you an example, what did Putin have? We seized 600 billion of his foreign reserves, and more than half of it was in U.S. dollars. Well, you guys, if you start looking at where a lot of these conspiracies come attacking the U.S. dollars, we could prove it's coming from Russia. They're trying to attack our markets. Now, China is competing with their markets, but they don't play that game, because if you hurt the U.S. dollar, you're going to hurt their markets, because 41% of the companies in China are still owned by the West, right? So if we're not buying, Chinese aren't making money. So they're kind of stuck. They are kind of stuck. They're actually in trouble, but that's a different talk and a different, completely different deal. The clamor for the safest of safe havens, the Federal Reserve's aggressive rate hikes, global shocks from the war in Ukraine, the China lockdowns, are all driving more cash into the dollar. People don't realize how big the China lockdowns are going. So the rest of the world's opening up. China's still locking down. They still have a COVID problem in China. Well, that eliminates a lot of conspiracies, doesn't it? All right? So it's the market's force, or I should say, let me read that again. The Federal Reserve's aggressive rate hikes, the global stocks from the war in Ukraine and China lockdowns are all driving more cash into the dollar. It's market force that will raise the buying power of Americans facing inflation, but also makes exports less attractive. The stronger dollar will tighten financial conditions at a time when many economists are warning about the prospect for a recession. And that's true. Dollar demolition job puts Asia's central banks on defense. You guys, in other words, what if you get, we've had this conversation before. You look at the central banks of Europe. You look at the central bank of Russia. You look at the central bank of China. And all these central banks. And people, again, improperly, or I should say incorrectly, think that it's some type of franchise. It's all owned by one entity somewhere. Completely untrue. In fact, it's even retarded to think about something like that. Because what are they all looking at? They're all looking at their currencies getting attacked because of markets, because of inflation. And so what are they doing? So they can have a basket of currencies, a country, let's say the EU and their economy. And so they're looking at different baskets of currencies to prop up their own currency, right? The euro. So what are they doing? They're buying more U.S. dollars to do that because they know the U.S. dollar will pull through. And what does that do? It causes supply times velocity of the U.S. dollar to go up. All right? So, and it's gigantic. It is it is massive. All right, so the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index has surged 5.4% since the start of April and near the strongest levels on record. The currency is at $1.05 against the euro. More analysts have started raising the possibility that the two could soon trade at parity. More money is being concentrated in dollars as a result of the sell-off in stocks and bonds. So the global FX and interest rates at Goldman Sachs, the bank estimates that investors have sold $65 billion in stock and bond funds over the past month, the first major outflows since the pandemic chaos of 2020. On top of that, flow data shows that the demand for major currencies is contracting. Some strategists, so remember, major currencies, that means plural, but the U.S. dollar is king. Some strategists are starting to add caution that the dollar is looking overvalued. The currency is the most expensive in the G10 based on real effective exchange rates, according to the Bank of International Settlements. Positioning is increasingly tilted towards the long U.S. dollar trade. And so, you guys, that's what it is. Momentum is bound to slow, Here's a roundup of recent strategic views, but here's what we're looking at, all right? There's a couple things on the plate. You're looking at the geopolitical, the moves that are happening. Russia is trying to create the multipolar world, that big, huge fantasy that they have, split the world in two, like it was during the Cold War. But this time, they want to be more involved with business, because what they had during the Cold War, the way that they set up their military coalition, that was fine. But the way they set up their trading coalitions, you guys, it was a big pile of poo. So that's what they're doing. That's what the BRICS is all about. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, was to build a counter to the Trilateral Commission, and that's where all those conspiracies come from. It's just a trade commission between the biggest economies in the world, Japan, United States, and Europe. That's it, nothing more. It was never meant to be anything else. So all the conspiracy theories and all that stuff go right out the window. But the reality is the U.S. dollar is king. And the reality is that U.S. dollar is gaining value. It's like, oh, wait a minute, Tony, there's a huge recession going on. You guys, it's not going to be forever. It'll get out. The recession is related to all these markets. All right? So, and a major part of the recession is based on the price of energy. And we all know whose fault that is. It's very simple. All right? So that's where the major parts of inflation come from. But what happens is you also have other areas that could cause inflation that we normally probably wouldn't see. Like, let's say if there was a certain president in office today and our oil prices or energy prices were low like it was before, and you guys can figure out the names yourself. We'll see how smart you really are. Then, you know what I mean? If there's other inflation that would creep into the markets because of that ripple effect from Ukraine being attacked, or, you know, the COVID crisis and how it's actually being extended in China, their markets are getting eaten up. They're locking everybody up. All right? We probably would never feel that. So if you look at a percentage, a pie, you're looking at different percentages. And what's hurting us is energy cost. All right? If we was to get rid of the energy cost, then the other causes of inflation, we probably wouldn't feel as much. It would just be natural markets going up and down. So you guys have to realize that. That's where the markets are at. There is no fear about the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar value is going up. It's every time the world goes into crisis, everybody goes after the U.S. dollar. Why? Because it's not a fiat currency. It's backed up by a $99 trillion economy. When you guys, when you have a fiat currency, let's say it's backed by gold, and let's say you have 5 tons of gold that backs up your currency. The minute you print $1 that's outside of that 5 tons of gold, you have a fiat currency. And that's exactly what the United States was doing. That's what Spain was doing, or I'll go back in time, right? That's what the United States was doing. It was on the gold standard. You could create a fiat currency. It's what the British were doing on the pounds. You could create a fiat currency. And what Spain was doing, what the Dutch were doing. But when you have the market, the entire market backing up a currency, and it has a proper float, it has a proper, it's not a fiat currency. It's a complete lie. It's an attack on our country. And when you throw that stuff out there, you're attacking the United States of America and our economy and our currency. But think about this, okay? How is it that people get opposite? They get it so opposite. Now, everything that I just told you, I could take to a court of law. So how are people getting it so opposite? It's because it's politically charged. That's why they're not looking at the markets the way that it's like, what's flowing? How's the market working? No, it's straight from a political group. It's straight from a religious group. And that's the way it's got to be. And it's going to be that until you die. And I'm telling you right now, you're off your rocker. You're wrong. The U.S. dollar there's no way that anybody can replace the U.S. dollar. Let's say if the value of the U.S. dollar starts going down. Nobody's going to replace that. Who's going to replace that? China? Russia? The EU? They don't have the customers we have. They don't have the market infrastructure that we have. And they sure as shit don't have the Navy to protect their markets. The number one business group organization supportive of any type of business on the planet. The biggest is the United States Navy. That's it. You want to know the secret of our formula? That's it. Why does the United States have more customers than everybody else? Why are we the consuming market of the world? United States Navy. Russia's getting their Navy, their ass is kicked by Ukraine right now, so they're not going to do nothing. Think about that. Imagine losing a naval war and a land war. You're losing your Navy in a land war. That's what Russia's doing right now. That's what they're facing. China doesn't have a Navy. And people come out, well, they got all these boats, there's reports. And you guys, those boats are jet skis compared to what we have. We have 23 carriers. All right? I think we have 12 super carriers. It takes 8 regular carriers to defeat 1 super carrier. Nobody can encroach on that. Nobody can encroach on that. So that's where the U.S. dollar is at. The reason I'm telling you this, because I'm talking about different flows of information, how the world works, where money's being made, where money's being lost. I talked about at the very beginning on these reverse mergers from these companies from China that started in 2008, ended up being on NASDAQ. Everybody lost on them, except the people selling them or selling short. Those guys cranked it. Made more money probably than any human beings in the history of mankind. What they were doing is they were doing the research, and they were going to China and looking at what these companies were doing, and there was companies saying that they were making they were doing 100 billion, I'd say 100 million a year in business, and they'd go look at these companies, and there wasn't one truck going in and out of those facilities. They figured it out. They knew it was going to go short. They knew somehow it was going to collapse. And so you had that going on. That's from the corporate side. Then you have from, geopolitics. That's governments. All right? And you watch the ebb and flow and things. So here's the thing. Remember at the beginning when I talked about what's a guarantor of your value and your assets? You guys diversify. I'm not saying gold's bad. I'm not saying silver's bad. I have gold and silver. I have other currencies. All right? But what guarantees that I'm going to get the most out of it? What's the ultimate strategy? You guys, it's taxes. It's what Bob was just talking about. It's building that whenever these companies, so let me give you an example. These companies that were out there and they were being advised, they were going to China, and they were Americans, they were going to China and say, you can do a reverse merger, we can get you on NASDAQ. What was the first thing they do, you guys? They built a structure, they built a tax haven for themselves. Very first thing. They won't even talk about how much they can make or who's going to do what until they do that. And that's what I've been begging you guys to do. So it doesn't matter how much dinar you have. In fact, the least amount of dinar, that you guys are out there, let's say if you got $1 million dinar or below, then you definitely need a CRUT or self-directing IRA. Talk to Bob, whatever category you fit, because you're going to have to fight for every dollar that you get, and that's what you want to do. When it revalues, and it will, you want to convert to the U.S. dollar, and you want to hold that position, and you want to fight for everything that you. But you guys, it's not a prolonged war. Once you build your entity, it's over with. You shouldn't think about investing in anything else until you can at least go through what Bob's talking about, a CRUT, and build one of those once. Because it's like building a home. It's like building a fortress for your investment. There's a lot of people out there that have taken advantage of it, and you can't imagine how proud of them. A lot of people don't, they don't know. They don't know how well it's going to work, but you will find out. And you don't want to be on the other side of that, finding out what it means, what we've been talking about, how to protect your value, how to get taxed to where it ends up being nothing. All that waiting, all that speculation, and you guys I've always been in contact with you guys, and I am very, very proud to get you guys off that roller coaster, but you still had to go through it. That's still time taken away from you. But the ultimate way to get off that roller coaster is to build a tax haven for yourself. You don't need to be a foreign entity. You don't need to do any of that stuff. You just make an appointment with Bob, and that's what we're talking about. But Bob had decided to put together this package and give you guys a major discount, and I guess it's till the end of May or whatever he said it was, and you guys need to take an opportunity and do that. Now, real quick, you guys, the cryptocurrencies. The cryptocurrencies are taking a huge hit right now. But you guys, it's not forever. It's going to go back up. All right, what happens is the markets, they're reacting. And when it reacts, everybody's equal. And you have the people at the very top, they don't know what's going to happen. You have the people at the very bottom, they don't know what's going to happen. Now, when the markets are doing good, the people at the top know what's going to happen. When the market's doing bad, very, very bad, and it's predictable, people at the top know what's going to happen. But in the middle, when the markets are in the middle like this, and people are trying to figure out, you know, you had the last cryptocurrency spike where it looked like the cryptocurrencies were over with as far as major growth, and then the prices started going down, and then the little guy got into it, you and me. And guess what? It spiked the value up. Well, this cycle around, you know, and you had a little bit of COVID money that helped with that. Well, this cycle around, it's you and I we're done investing. We've invested as much as, you know, as far as our population goes. So that's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to hurt the cryptocurrency world. But guess what? It will pick up again. What's the cycle? All right. Here's the thing. That the reason I'm pointing that out is because I can't guarantee a cycle. I can't guarantee when it's going to happen, how big the bubble's going to be, and when it bursts. Nobody can do that. But there's one thing that you guys got to understand. Every time that a cycle comes along, the bubble keeps getting bigger and bigger. You know why? People are making more and more money. The only thing that nobody can guarantee is the timing. So let's say inflation causes the markets to crash. Well, the next time around, when that bubble starts to grow, and it will, our markets will be bigger than it's ever been before. So that's the keys. You got to understand. If you're going to invest, you got to understand that. But outside of that, what's a guarantee outside of that? It's your tax, the way you set your whatever you're setting your investments in. And you have to be militant about it. You have to be able to do that. So, you know, you get one more time, you guys, a great opportunity Bob has set up, and Max Plans and these guys out of Utah. You know, I believe in it, and it should be something. It should be the most important thing that you're planning to do here, and just knock it out. Because what's coming down the road is a rock is going to add value to the currency, and guess what they're backing it up with? They're backing it up with the U.S. dollar. They're going to back it up with the U.S. dollar. That's why it was so important that you understand. You guys, there's two things. If you believe that the dinar is going to lop, there's no reason for you to be in this investment. Don't waste our time. If you believe the U.S. dollar somehow is going to crash because you went on a site somewhere, some isolationist site, whatever, and it is political reasons, I promise you. It's not market reasons, because I'm sitting there reading the charts and watching the value of the dollar go up. Everybody go after it. And you have people out there saying, it's not a good idea. And they're selling you gold, and they're hoping to get the dollars out in your pocket that you bought the gold with. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You guys, it doesn't. It's a scam. It's the biggest scam on the planet. The Iraqi currency is a real currency. It's not a scam. The way people were selling it when you and I got into it, yeah, they were scamming you. They were every Tuesday, every Thursday. And that's why I got into it and said, hey, look, it's not a scam. There is opportunity here, but you got to look at what's going on correctly with Iraq and how the U.S. dollar is handled. The U.S. dollar is a political weapon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a political weapon. So how is it used? How do we always end up winning? Always, and we're winning right now. Russia and China are getting their asses kicked, all right? Literally having their butts handed to them. And we're winning. It's like, well, wait a minute. There's nothing on that. It's because these guys are probably trying to sell you gold. They're trying to dump whatever they got. All right? It's usually opposite. But the only way that you can get out of any of that stuff, the only guarantor of all that mix is what you have, and you have your dinar, and you protect it tax-wise at all costs. That's your guarantee. That's your guarantee. So, with that, Bob, you want to add anything, or you want to get into questions, because we got a little bit of time here left.
Yeah, I would love to open the floor. Okay, guys, you know how the system works here. You're going to hit *6 or unmute the icon on your computer, pose the question either to myself or Tony. and then we'll answer it. And when you get done, one more time, please mute yourself. If we have too many people that are putting themselves out there to ask questions and it gets too rowdy, I will mute you, but it doesn't mean I don't love you. All right? So, who wants to go first? And please identify who you wish to ask the question of.
Hello?
Hi, who's this?
This is Tyler.
Hey, Tyler, how are you?
Good, I'm good. It's just a real quick question about Iraq for Tony. So I know there's all this political stuff going on trying to establish the government, and it just keeps getting pushed out and pushed out. Do you think that will be solved soon? And do you think that it has any correlation with them raising the value? I mean, I know they don't need the government established per se, but maybe they are choosing to wait until it's established to maybe look good for the party who wins, the group that wins?
First of all, can you hear me pretty good still?
Yeah, you're good, Tony. Go ahead.
Excellent. First of all, both sides are in agreement, or there's more than one side. I shouldn't say that. There's probably 3 or 4 sides. They're all in agreement. They want to add value to the currency. So that is not has anything to do with, they're trying to put together partnerships and coalitions inside the government, and it's just going to take a while. But everything else on top of that, how they're treating banks, the laws that they're passing, and all that stuff, none of it's being blocked. I can't think of one Iraqi that doesn't want to add value to the currency. Why would they not want to do that? They get more power. They're out from under the U.S. dollar, even though they're selling oil in U.S. dollars. So them not forming a government, just like you said, you stated correctly, they don't need to form a government to add value to the currency. And number 2, that's not what's holding anything up, or they are all in agreement adding value to the currency.
Okay, so they did say, I did see in articles, reports saying that there are aspects that are being held up. I don't know if it's just like laws and certain projects and stuff. That's the reason why I was asking, is maybe if they were just like, that was one of the things that could have been correlated to being just put on the shelf a little bit until they get that drama over with. But
no, the only thing. Yeah, the only thing that would and I don't want to use the word hesitant or anything, that to make a strategic revaluation is a perfect storm for the markets. You know what I mean? So you got to understand, the oil prices are going up so high. If you look at the history of when the oil prices have gone up, and historically when the oil prices have gone down a lot is when they went up too high. Remember, 2008, it was $148 a barrel. People just stopped buying gas, and nobody had control of it after that, and it went down to like $32 a barrel, and it caused a lot of energy companies to go out of business. That's what so there's a balance here. The price isn't just going to keep going up forever. I could see it like being in Arizona. You watch the last couple of years, people buying personal watercraft, and this year nobody's buying. Instead of $23 to fill up that gas tank, it's $70, and they're not going to do it. And it's going to cause the value to go down. Well, the reason I said that, because Iraq is watching this stuff. They can't build and pass laws on a market that's artificially too high. You know what I mean? If there's hesitant, and I'm not saying this is what they're doing, but if they're hesitant because of the inflation, all that stuff, they definitely want to wait. But it's not like it's not like a long-term wait, though. There's, you guys will see the gas prices start to come down conveniently just before the midterm elections here in the United States. I promise you.
Yes, of course.
It will happen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take too much time, so I'll end my question there. Appreciate it.
No, appreciate it.
Thanks, Tyler. Amanda, I saw you on here. Are you still there?
I am.
Go for it.
Okay, so I have kind of a quirky little question, and that is, when you were talking about taxes and you talked about how single versus married people get dinged, my question is, how long do you have to be married for?
The moment that you file the tax. See, you're married until you're divorced.
Well, I mean, as far as taxes are concerned. So
Taxes are concerned. If you get married on December 30th, you're married for that year.
okay, and then the IQD thing happens, and it's February, and then I get divorced in March. I'm still okay because it happened.
You're married. The only problem is that your tax return is going to be done by the end of the year, so you would have a complication there.
Okay. So then I would have to stay married until the tax return is filed.
Yes. Is that a burden?
Well, kind of.
Okay. We're not going to go there, Amanda.
Right. Okay, so now here's a different one that's not quite so personal, I suppose. But, so you talked about passive income and whatever income for
active.
a Roth precious metals. So if a person is transferring a Roth that they already have into a precious metal Roth, does that income thing still matter?
No.
Okay.
Because the previous amount that was in the Roth was already established and cleared.
Okay, but if I'm adding the IQD, because it's going to be converted to a precious metal, do I have to be earning income?
No.
Okay.
I love easy answers. That was a good one.
That's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. Dave, I saw you on here.
Yes, sir. Bob, back in March, you did that call, and you encouraged everybody to get your trust done. So I filled out the questionnaire.
Yep.
And I haven't heard anything yet. So did I fall through the cracks?
You know something, Dave? I've done so damn many of them in the last couple of days. My head's in a buzz. But I promise you, I'll check and find out where you're at.
Okay.
All right, and I'll give you a yell. I'll send you an email.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Bob?
Yeah.
This is Zach. How you doing?
Good, Ed. How are you?
I'm doing great. On the CRUT, I've got 4 charities, so I need to check with these charities that I'm talking that I have on my CRUT to see if they would accept the currency
no.
in order for me to give it.
Nope. Because what's going to happen is you're going to exchange the IQD into dollars. And then you're going to invest those dollars. And then when you die, then it's going to go as dollars to those charities, so it won't make any difference.
Okay, now, if I've got 4 of them, and I do a private charity foundation, can I eliminate those 4 and put it all into that one?
Yes!
All righty then. That's my question. Thank you, sir.
You're more than welcome. All right, who's next? We still got a couple of minutes left.
Hey, Bob?
Yeah, I got 2 of you. Go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, I had the same question about the CRUT. I hadn't heard anything, so maybe you partially answered that.
And David and I have been just cranking them out just as fast as we can. And I know that he's got a pile that I finished my part and that he's working on today. And he'll probably have them all to me tomorrow, which is another, 17 of them? You know, so they're just coming in, and I'm getting them out as fast as I can. We're almost to the halfway mark.
Okay. My other question is about the vaulting service.
Yeah.
This is kind of a personal thing, just dragging me back, whether I can trust a vaulting service to send my money to them.
You know
I
something?
had a friend who put with some other friends, he lost $20 million in this group that exchanged, they thought they were exchanged about 5 years ago. He lost $20 million in dinar. And so that kind of puts this fear into me that I'm going to put my dinar in an envelope and mail it somewhere.
Yeah, I hear you.
So how can I be reassured that this is a trusting vaulting service and everything is
legitimate,
on the up and up?
Okay, good questions. Okay, first of all, I tell everybody to do their due diligence, all right? Bob Coleman, who owns this thing, he started it in 2008, so it's been around a while, okay? He's licensed to be able to do, he's got a separate business inside of that, which gives him the flexibility and the ability to exchange our IQD, which is what makes his situation unique. He also is the largest vaulting service in the United States that handles IQD. He also has his own Delarose machine, okay, so that he's verifying all of these notes when they come through the door. And I've worked with him for years. I have all my IQD over there, both my personal and my Roth. And I just send everything through the mail.
Okay. So, hey, Bob, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
This gentleman, was the service and stuff that the people that you're talking about, did it involve Panama?
No.
Okay. Was it the group out of Reno, Nevada?
Yeah, he had to go out west with a whole group of people. They were federal people that had day room flu machines, and he gave them all their money, and he's never heard back.
Yep.
Yeah, those guys got in trouble. Those guys got arrested.
Good.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we're familiar with them.
Yeah. There was another one. There was that one out of Reno, Nevada, and there was one where you send your money and it goes to a Panamanian bank, and nobody's heard from those people again. So this establishment that Bob's talking about, it's a legitimate establishment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's licensed, certified. So I'm not worried about this one.
Okay, thanks for the reassurance.
Yep,
sure.
No problem. Glad to help you.
Hey, Bob?
Yeah, go ahead.
I still have no idea what you're talking about, but I enjoy listening to you, and I enjoy listening to Tony. But I sure like Tony a lot, because I get around the media and I'm all fearful, and then I listen to Tony and I'm like, oh, now I'm bring all my levels down. Okay, now I'm fine now. So
well, that's
just
the whole
keep up
idea.
the good work, and hopefully the month of May we'll hook up with you guys. So
well,
so let me
go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, let me add something to that. If you watch these generals, all right, and very particular generals, 3- and 4-star generals, they go through particular schools that are workaholics put together, and it talks about some of the stuff that I talk about. But they get to realize where all the information is coming from. Like, I could tell you exactly. So, give you an example. One of the conspiracies. This will make you guys laugh unless some of you believe it. The West, the United States, the liberals, and when they say liberals, they mean you and me. I'm a conservative. I'm also a traditionalist. I believe in God. But Russia and China label us as liberals because we believe in democracy. We believe in freedom of speech. So people have that mixed up. All right. But to give you an example, our plot is to get rid of genders, sex, male and female, and then we're going to upload our conscience to hard drives because you don't need those anyways. You don't need male or female. And that's the conspiracy. And guess what? We're watching it, and then we watch it get washed through different groups like Alex Jones and these guys, and people believe it. And then you have people that write articles that support it. And so we show exactly where every article is coming from, and it's amazing. It works, and it's been working since the 1600s. But imagine what these generals and stuff know, because they not only do they have to defeat asymmetrical warfare, but they also have to fight a neocortical warfare also. That means your brain. That means how symbolism works and how. And so that's where a lot of the information that I have comes from. It comes from that world and doing research for groups that are out there looking for these guys who are planting those eggs. You know what I mean? And it's called active measures. It's active measures from Russia. If you got rid of Russia, and I'm not suggesting anybody that does that, if you got people that are, the KGB, that's now FSB, all the conspiracies would go away. Literally, they would disappear. We're spending $1 trillion a year on defense. They're spending, they say, well, we don't spend that much on our defense. We only spend like $500 billion a year on our defense. That's because they're spending most of it on propaganda. They believe in winning the war without firing a shot, and it just hasn't worked. So that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. So if you know that, you kind of know that the world is set up information-wise for you to be attacked. They're going after the U.S. dollar. Any of these groups that I named, right? The Bilderberg Group, the IMF, the Trilateral Organization, they are all pedophiles, every single one of them. And it just so happens It is the apex of our markets, how we create our markets. The Bilderberg group gets together, and it's different people every year. They're the giants of the markets, and they get together. It's like, how can we expand our markets? It's not a pedophile group, all right? But Russia can do it, China can do it. Nobody says a word about it. They got an equivalent to our Bilderberg group. They got two equivalents to our IMF, and they're creating a. So you see what I mean? So once you know, it's kind of strange. There's nothing sacred anymore. In other words, there's no mysteries anymore, and that's one of the big drivers behind religion. Is, hey, am I going to live forever? Am I doing right? In the geopolitical world, there's no mysteries. We know exactly where it's coming from. We know exactly who they're attacking. We know, So what I'm trying to tell you is, don't worry about nothing, because it's all garbage. It's information. It's garbage. None of it's real. There's only a few things that are real that can hurt us, and nothing can approach us right now. Nothing can attack us, you and me right now. We just have to figure out how are you and I going to sail through this life, and finance has a lot to do with that. That's the only thing you have to worry about. So anyways.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
What I'm always curious is, the virus and the medicine all came from China, and yet if you get around Chinese people, they refuse to take the COVID shot, but everybody else has to. Thank you for making me relax during this time.
Yeah, hey, no worries. I believe it or not, that is my religion. Is empirical data. There's a lot of stuff that's said, but what can you actually take to court of law? What can you actually prove? And that it should cause people to pause, but it doesn't. There's some people out there, they've been blabbing their mouths out so loud, so long, they can't change course because they'll know, they're trying to hide themselves. They've been wrong the whole time, and their egos get in. So just like that old funny saying, your ego is not your amigo. You know what I mean? Don't let it get you down, because it will. But we're good. Yeah, we're good. The markets will expand one way or the other.
Got it. And I do hang out with generals. Every other week I'm down at Camp Pendleton in Southern California and cooking about 500 burgers for the guys. So
awesome. That's awesome.
Cool for you.
Yeah, very cool.
I know all the generals by first names, and everybody else knows them by, their correct names.
Right. Well, there's a lot of generals that I've worked with in the past, and none of them have the worries that the average person does. They just roll their eyes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Are they worried about Russia, their military? Yeah. Are they worried about China and their military? Yeah, but nothing else. They know it's not true. So, just a heads up.
Thank you so much, Tony. I truly appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
And also Bob Adams, too.
Wow, I feel like I got included. Thank you. All right, folks, we are running over on our time on this thing. I'm going to open up the door because I did go a little long in my presentation. A couple more questions, then we're going to have to call it a night. So who wants to go next?
Hey, Bob, it's Rick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one quick question on any word of anything happening of Warka.
The only thing that we have at this particular point in time is that all of the outlying offices were closed because of the ISIS mess, but they are still a functioning bike, and they are located right smack dab in the middle of Baghdad. I've chased them down and saw them. So they're still there. They're still functioning. They're working with CBI to get some things straightened around. So they haven't gone anywhere. They're just not having the doors open.
And they won't. So there was some information that we got, and it was actually false information that ISIS had stole all of the CBI's Warka's money. None of that stuff is true. I haven't even talked to Bob about this yet. All the banks in Iraq are in the exact same position, and all their currency is guaranteed by the CBI. So that's not what's going on. What it is that they it was political, and that's what happened to Warka. There's a couple other banks that happened with also. But it's good, and the money's still there, and it's still backed up. We just got to wait it out. I have a ton of money in Warka, so I'm in the same boat. But we just have to wait it out and see how these guys open up the doors so we can start. People want to pull their money out now, and I understand that. But when they start adding value to the currency, what can we do? How fast can we pull it out? What's the limit per day? That type of deal. But they're still there. They're still good, and they're still 100% insured.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, one more question.
This is Jim Walter for Tony. You there, Tony?
Yes, sir.
Wanted to see when your next geopolitical course is coming out. I enjoyed the first one so much, and I know I ask this question all the time, but wanted to see if that's still in the works.
It is, and what happened is a few weeks ago, remember I was going to have one on a Saturday, and I haven't done this. Yeah, I haven't had to cancel a meeting since 1995, since I started teaching geopolitics. I got sick, and I also had a sister pass away on me, so everything just kind of bounced up, and I haven't been able to reschedule it because remember, what I do is that I'm actually giving the talk to people like in San Diego, Raytheon, and stuff like that, and then I get to invite you guys. So I'm trying to find out when I can do the next meeting with them, and then I'll be able to invite you guys back in. So give me some time here. That'll come up here pretty soon because I need to knock that out.
Great. I appreciate that, and sorry to hear about your sister.
Thanks.
All right, guys. We're going to call it an evening. Thank you very much for the time to be here. I will be making this available. Now, I've got a really pretty good sized email I'm sending out with a lot of material, some attachments and some links. So just wait for it. I'll probably have it out in the morning. So once again, thank you very much for being here. And on that note, we're going to call it a night. See you next time.